Chapter 26. There was a famine in the land, and Isaac went down to Abimelech, king of the Philistines in Gerar. The Lord appeared to him and said,
"Do not go down to Egypt, but continue to camp wherever in this land I tell you. Stay in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. For to you and your descendants I will give all these lands, in fulfillment of the oath I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and give them all these lands, and in your descendants all the nations of the earth shall find blessing. This because Abraham obeyed me, keeping my mandate."
So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked questions about his wife, he answered, "She is my sister." He was afraid if he called her his wife, the men of the place would kill him on account of Rebekah, since she was very beautiful. But when he had been there for a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, happened to look out of a window and was surprised to see Isaac fondling his wife Rebekah. He called for Isaac and said, "She must certainly be your wife. How could you have said, 'She is my sister'?" Isaac replied, "I thought I might lose my life on her account." "How could you do this to us?" exclaimed Abimelech. "It would have taken very little for one of the men to lie with your wife, and you would have thus brought guilt upon us." Abimelech therefore gave this warning to all his men: "Anyone who molests this man or his wife shall forthwith be put to death." Isaac sowed a crop in that region and reaped 100-fold the same year. Since the Lord blessed him, he became richer and richer all the time, until he was very wealthy indeed. He acquired such flocks and herds, and so many work animals, that the Philistines became envious of him. The Philistines had stopped up and filled with dirt all the wells that his father's servants had dug back in the days of his father Abraham. So Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us. You have become far too numerous for us." Isaac left there and made the Wadi Gerar his regular campsite. Isaac reopened the wells which his father's servants had dug back in the days of his father Abraham, and which the Philistines had stopped up after Abraham's death. He gave them the same names that his father had given them. But when Isaac's servants dug in the wadi and reached the spring water in their well, the shepherds of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's servants, saying, "The water belongs to us." So the well was called Esek, because they had challenged him there. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one too. So it was called Sitnah. When he had moved on from there, he dug another well, but over this one they did not quarrel. It was called Rehoboth, because he said, "The Lord has now given us ample room, and we shall flourish in the land." From there Isaac went up to Beersheba. The same night the Lord appeared to him and said,
"I am the God of your father Abraham. You have no need to fear, since I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham."
So he built an altar there and invoked the Lord by name. After he had pitched his tent there, his servants began to dig a well nearby. Abimelech had meanwhile come to him from Gerar, accompanied by Ahuzzath, his counselor, and Phicol, the general of his army. Isaac asked them, "Why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me and have driven me away from you?" They answered, "We are convinced that the Lord is with you, so we propose that there be a sworn agreement between our two sides, between you and us. Let us make a pact with you. You shall not act unkindly towards us, just as we have not molested you, but have always acted kindly toward you, and have let you depart in peace. Henceforth the Lord's blessing be upon you." Isaac then made a feast for them, and they ate and drank. Early the next morning they exchanged oaths. Then Isaac bade them farewell, and they departed from him in peace. That same day Isaac's servants came and brought him news about the well they had been digging. They told him, "We have reached water." He called it Sheba. Hence the name of the city, Beersheba, to this day. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hivite. But they became a source of embitterment to Isaac and Rebekah. Chapter 27. When Isaac was so old that his eyesight had failed him, he called his older son Esau and said to him, "Son." "Yes, father," he replied. Isaac then said, "As you can see, I am so old that I may now die at any time. Take your gear, therefore, your quiver and bow, and go out into the country to hunt some game for me. With your catch, prepare an appetizing dish for me, such as I like, and bring it to me to eat so that I may give you my special blessing before I die." Rebekah had been listening while Isaac was speaking to his son Esau, so when Esau went out into the country to hunt some game for his father, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I overheard your father tell your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game, and with it prepare an appetizing dish for me to eat, that I may give you my blessing with the Lord's approval before I die.' Now, son, listen carefully to what I tell you. Go to the flock and get me 2 choice kids. With these I will prepare an appetizing dish for your father, such as he likes. Then bring it to your father to eat, that he may bless you before he dies." "But my brother Esau is a hairy man," said Jacob to his mother Rebekah, "and I am smooth-skinned. Suppose my father feels me. He will think I am making sport of him, and he shall bring on myself a curse instead of a blessing." His mother, however, replied, "Let any curse against you, son, fall on me. Just do as I say. Go and get me the kids." So Jacob went and got them, and brought them to his mother, and with them she prepared an appetizing dish, such as his father liked. Rebekah then took the best clothes of her older son Esau that she had in the house, and gave them to her younger son Jacob to wear, and with the skins of the kids she covered up his hands and the hairless parts of his neck. She then handed her son Jacob the appetizing dish and the bread she had prepared. Bringing them to his father, Jacob said, "Father." "Yes," replied Isaac. "Which of my sons are you?" Jacob answered his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I did as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your special blessing." But Isaac asked, "How did you succeed so quickly, son?" He answered, "The Lord your God let things turn out well with me." Isaac then said to Jacob, "Come closer, son, that I may feel you, to learn whether you really are my son Esau or not." So Jacob moved up closer to his father. When Isaac felt him, he said, "Although the voice is Jacob's, the hands are Esau's." He failed to identify him because his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, so in the end he gave him his blessing. Again he asked him, "Are you really my son Esau?" "Certainly," he replied. Then Isaac said, "Serve me your game, son, that I may eat of it and then give you my blessing." Jacob served it to him, and Isaac ate. He brought him wine, and he drank. Finally, his father Isaac said to him, "Come closer, son, and kiss me." As Jacob went up and kissed him, Isaac smelled the fragrance of his clothes. With that he blessed him, saying, "Ah, the fragrance of my son is like the fragrance of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give to you of the dew of the heavens and of the fertility of the earth abundance of grain and wine. Let peoples serve you, and nations pay you homage. Be master of your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you." Jacob had scarcely left his father, just after Isaac had finished blessing him, when his brother Esau came back from his hunt. Then he too prepared an appetizing dish with his game, and bringing it to his father, he said, "Please, father, eat some of your son's game, that you may give me your special blessing." "Who are you?" his father Isaac asked him. "I am Esau," he replied, "your firstborn son." With that, Isaac was seized with a fit of uncontrollable trembling. "Who was it then," he asked, "that hunted game and brought it to me? I finished eating it just before you came, and I blessed him. Now he must remain blessed." On hearing his father's words, Esau burst into loud, bitter sobbing. "Father, bless me too," he begged. When Isaac explained, "Your brother came here by a ruse and carried off your blessing," Esau exclaimed, "He has been well named Jacob. He has now supplanted me, twice. First he took away my birthright, and now he has taken away my blessing." Then he pleaded, "Haven't you saved a blessing for me?" Isaac replied, "I have already appointed him your master, and I have assigned to him all his kinsmen as his slaves. Besides, I have enriched him with grain and wine. What then can I do for you, son?" But Esau urged his father, "Have you only that one blessing, father? Bless me too." Isaac, however, made no reply, and Esau wept aloud. Finally Isaac spoke again and said to him, "Ah, far from the fertile earth shall be your dwelling, far from the dew of the heavens above. By your sword you shall live, and your brother you shall serve. But when you become restive, you shall throw off his yoke from your neck." Esau bore Jacob a grudge because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, "When the time of mourning for my father comes, I will kill my brother Jacob." When Rebekah got news of what her older son Esau had in mind, she called her younger son Jacob and said to him, "Listen, your brother Esau intends to settle accounts with you by killing you. Therefore, son, do what I tell you. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him a while until your brother's fury subsides, and he forgets what you did to him. Then I will send for you and bring you back. Must I lose both of you in a single day?" Rebekah said to Isaac, "I am disgusted with life because of the Hittite woman. If Jacob also should marry a Hittite woman, a native of the land, like these women, what good would life be to me?" Chapter 28. Isaac therefore called Jacob, greeted him with a blessing, and charged him, "You shall not marry a Canaanite woman. Go now to Padan Aram, to the home of your mother's father Bethuel, and there choose a wife for yourself from among the daughters of your uncle Laban. May God Almighty bless you and make you fertile, multiply you that you may become an assembly of peoples. May he extend to you and your descendants the blessing he gave to Abraham, so that you may gain possession of the land where you are staying, which he assigned to Abraham." Then Isaac sent Jacob on his way. He went to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Aramean, and brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. Esau noted that Isaac had blessed Jacob when he sent him to Padan Aram to get himself a wife there, charging him as he gave him his blessing not to marry a Canaanite woman, and that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother and gone to Padan Aram. Esau realized how displeasing the Canaanite women were to his father Isaac, so he went to Ishmael, and in addition to the wives he had, married Mahalath, the daughter of Abraham's son Ishmael, and sister of Nebaioth. Jacob departed from Beersheba and proceeded toward Haran. When he came upon a certain shrine, as the sun had already set, he stopped there for the night. Taking one of the stones at the shrine, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep at that spot. Then he had a dream. A stairway rested on the ground, with its top reaching to the heavens, and God's messengers were going up and down on it. And there was the Lord standing beside him and saying,
"I, the Lord, am the God of your forefather Abraham, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you are lying I will give to you and your descendants. These shall be as plentiful as the dust of the earth, and through them you shall spread out east and west, north and south. In you and your descendants all the nations of the earth shall find blessing. Know that I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go, and bring you back to this land. I will never leave you until I have done what I promised you."
When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he exclaimed, "Truly the Lord is in this spot, although I did not know it." In solemn wonder he cried out, "How awesome is this shrine! This is nothing else but an abode of God, and that is the gateway to heaven." Early the next morning Jacob took the stone that he had put under his head, set it up as a memorial stone, and poured oil on top of it. He called that site Bethel, whereas the former name of the town had been Luz. Jacob then made this vow, "If God remains with me to protect me on this journey I am making, and to give me enough bread to eat and clothing to wear, and I come back safe to my father's house, the Lord shall be my God. This stone that I have set up as a memorial stone shall be God's abode. Of everything you give to me, I will faithfully return a 10th part to you." Chapter 29. After Jacob resumed his journey, he came to the land of the Easterners. Looking about, he saw a well in the open country, with 3 droves of sheep huddled near it, for droves were watered from that well. A large stone covered the mouth of the well. Only when all the shepherds were assembled there could they roll this stone away from the mouth of the well and water the flocks. Then they would put the stone back again over the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, "Friends, where are you from?" "We are from Haran," they replied. Then he asked them, "Do you know Laban, son of Nahor?" "We do," they answered. He inquired further, "Is he well?" "He is," they answered, "and here comes his daughter Rachel with his flock." Then he said, "There is still much daylight left. It is hardly the time to bring the animals home. Why don't you water the flocks now, and then continue pasturing them?" "We cannot," they replied, "until all the shepherds are here to roll the stone away from the mouth of the well. Only then can we water the flocks." While he was still talking with them, Rachel arrived with her father's sheep. She was the one who tended them. As soon as Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of his uncle Laban, with the sheep of his uncle Laban, he went up, rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well, and watered his uncle's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and burst into tears. He told her that he was her father's relative, Rebekah's son, and she ran to tell her father. When Laban heard the news of his sister's son, Jacob, he hurried out to meet him. After embracing and kissing him, he brought him to his house. Jacob then recounted to Laban all that had happened, and Laban said to him, "You are indeed my flesh and blood." After Jacob had stayed with him a full month, Laban said to him, "Should you serve me for nothing, just because you are a relative of mine? Tell me what your wages should be." Now Laban had 2 daughters. The older was called Leah, the younger Rachel. Leah had lovely eyes, but Rachel was well-formed and beautiful. Since Jacob had fallen in love with Rachel, he answered Laban, "I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban replied, "I prefer to give her to you rather than an outsider. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, yet they seemed to him but a few days because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, that I may consummate my marriage with her, for my term is now completed." So Laban invited all the local inhabitants and gave a feast. At the nightfall, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob consummated the marriage with her. Laban assigned his slave girl, Zilpah, to his daughter Leah as her maidservant. In the morning, Jacob was amazed. It was Leah, so he cried out to Laban, "How could you do this to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why did you dupe me?" "It is not the custom in our country," Laban replied, "to marry off a younger daughter before an older one. Finish the bridal week for this one, and then I will give you the other 2 in return for another 7 years of service with me." Jacob agreed. He finished the bridal week for Leah, and then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel in marriage. Laban assigned his slave girl Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her maidservant. Jacob then consummated his marriage with Rachel also, and he loved her more than Leah. Thus he remained in Laban's service another 7 years. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he made her fruitful, while Rachel remained barren. Leah conceived and bore a son, and she named him Reuben, for she said, "It means, the Lord saw my misery, now my husband will love me." She conceived again and bore a son, and said, "It means, the Lord heard that I was unloved, and therefore has given me this one also." So she named him Simeon. Again she conceived and bore a son, and she said, "Now at last my husband will become attached to me, since I have now borne him 3 sons. That is why she named him Levi. Once more she conceived and bore a son, and she said, "This time I will give grateful praise to the Lord." Therefore she named him Judah. Then she stopped bearing children. Chapter 30. When Rachel saw that she had failed to bear children to Jacob, she became envious of her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I shall die." In anger Jacob retorted, "Can I take the place of God, who has denied you the fruit of the womb?" She replied, "Here is my maidservant Bilhah. Have intercourse with her, and let her give birth on my knees, so that I too may have offspring, at least through her." When Bilhah conceived and bore a son, Rachel said, "God has vindicated me. Indeed, he has heeded my plea and given me a son." Therefore she named him Dan. Rachel's maidservant Bilhah conceived again and bore a second son, and Rachel said, "I engaged in a fateful struggle with my sister, and I prevailed." So she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had ceased to bear children, she gave her maidservant Zilpah to Jacob as a consort. So Jacob had intercourse with Zilpah, and she conceived and bore a son. Leah then said, "What good luck!" So she named him Gad. Then Leah's maidservant Zilpah bore a second son to Jacob, and Leah said, "What good fortune!" meaning, "Women call me fortunate." So she named him Asher. One day, during the wheat harvest, when Reuben was out in the field, he came upon some mandrakes, which he brought home to his mother Leah. Rachel asked Leah, "Please let me have some of your son's mandrakes." Leah replied, "Was it not enough for you to take away my husband, that you must now take my son's mandrakes too?" "Very well then," Rachel answered. "In exchange for your son's mandrakes, Jacob may lie with you tonight." That evening, when Jacob came home from the fields, Leah went out to meet him. "You are now to come in with me," she told him, "because I have paid for you with my son's mandrakes." That night he slept with her, and God heard her prayer. She conceived and bore a fifth son to Jacob. Leah then said, "God has given me my reward for having let my husband have a maidservant." So she named him Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob. And she said, "God has brought me a precious gift. This time my husband will offer me presents, now that I have borne him 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. Finally she gave birth to a daughter, and she named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel. He heard her prayer and made her fruitful. She conceived and bore a son, and she said, "God has removed my disgrace." So she named him Joseph, meaning, "May the Lord add another son to this one for me." After Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Give me leave to go to my homeland. Let me have my wives, for whom I served you, and my children too, that I may depart. You know very well the service that I have rendered you." Laban answered him, "If you will please. I have learned through divination that it is because of you that God has blessed me. So," he continued, "state what wages you want from me, and I will pay them." Jacob replied, "You know what work I did for you, and how well your livestock fared under my care. The little you had before I came has grown into very much, since the Lord's blessings came upon you in my company. Therefore I should now do something for my own household as well." "What should I pay you?" Laban asked. Jacob answered, "You do not have to pay me anything outright. I will again pasture and tend your flock, if you do this one thing for me. Go through your whole flock today, and remove from it every dark animal among the sheep and every spotted or speckled one among the goats. Only such animals shall be my wages. In the future, whenever you check on these wages of mine, let my honesty testify against me. Any animal in my possession that is not a speckled or spotted goat, or a dark sheep, got there by theft." "Very well," agreed Laban. "Let it be as you say." That same day, Laban removed the streaked and spotted he-goats and all the speckled and spotted she-goats, all those with some white on them, as well as the fully dark-colored sheep. These he left in charge of his sons. Then he put a 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob continued to pasture the rest of Laban's flock. Jacob, however, got some fresh shoots of poplar, almond, and plane trees, and he made white stripes in them by peeling off the bark down to the white core of the shoots. The rods that he had thus peeled he then set upright in the watering troughs, so that they would be in front of the animals that drank from the troughs. When the animals were in heat as they came to drink, the goats mated by the rods. and so they brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted kids. The sheep, on the other hand, Jacob kept apart, and he set these animals to face the streaked or fully dark-colored animals of Laban. Thus he produced special flocks of his own, which he did not put with Laban's flock. Moreover, whenever the hardier animals were in heat, Jacob would set the rods and the troughs in full view of these animals, so that they mated by the rods. But with the weaker animals he would not put the rods there, so the feeble animals would go to Laban, but the sturdy ones to Jacob. Thus the man grew increasingly prosperous, and he came to own not only large flocks, but also male and female servants and camels and asses.